Welcome to the Echoes of Ihsan podcast, where we kind of take those deep dives into the wisdom of Islamic traditions, trying to, uncover those like little hidden gems of knowledge, the ones that you haven't quite caught before.
Yeah.
And today, we're going to be taking a journey into the world of Islamic naming conventions and etiquette.
Okay.
And our guide for this exploration is none other than Sahih Muslim, Book 25 on General Behavior,
Okay.
which is a collection of hadiths. That offers a fascinating window, like you're looking through a window into the social and cultural nuances of that early Islamic society.
I think what's really captivating about this book in particular is that it kind of goes beyond like just the surface level practices, you know?
Right.
You really see kind of the profound like values and principles that kind of underpin their everyday life, back then. It's almost like having a mirror to the past. So you can really understand not just what people did,
Right.
but why they did it.
Exactly. Like it's really about not just the what, but the why that makes it so insightful.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's jump right in. The first set of hadiths that we're going to unpack deal with the Prophet Muhammad's, peace be upon him, name, and his kunya. Now for those who might not be familiar, a kunya in Arabic culture is kind of like a nickname or like an honorific title based on one's child.
Right.
So it's a way of showing respect and acknowledging someone's familial role. And interestingly enough, these hadiths start with a rather amusing incident where a man accidentally calls someone other than the Prophet by his kunya, Abul Qasim, which means father of Qasim.
Yes, in Hadith 5314. It's interesting because it's this incident that seems very simple, but then it leads to like a really, really important teaching where the Prophet, peace be upon him, gently corrects this man and explains that, yes, you can name your child after him, so you can name your child Muhammad, but using his kunya, so Abul Qasim, is specifically prohibited.
That's a really intriguing distinction, right? Like, why would it be, why would it be encouraged to name your child Muhammad?
Yeah.
But then using the kunya would be off limits.
Yeah.
It seems a little counterintuitive.
It definitely raises some questions. So I think the answer really lies in understanding the unique status and the unique roles that are associated with the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, right? So a name like Muhammad, while it's certainly honored and beloved, really serves as a way to, connect with his legacy and kind of invoke blessings. But the kunya Abul Qasim is very much tied to the Prophet's very specific responsibilities and like his divinely ordained roles.
Oh, okay.
So it really points to his unique position as a distributor, not just of spoils of war, but also of knowledge.
Interesting.
And that's a very crucial role, obviously, in spreading the message of Islam.
Right.
So to use that kunya for someone else could then be seen as kind of diminishing the sanctity and significance of his mission.
Wow. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's like, it carries a certain weight, that specific kunya.
Yeah.
Because it has a direct link to the Prophet's divinely appointed duties, And if you apply it to anyone else, it's almost as if they are trying to claim that authority for themselves.
Right. Exactly.
That's pretty powerful.
Exactly. And to illustrate this point further, the next hadith, 5315 third, it states that the names Abdullah and Abd al-Rahman are the most beloved names to Allah. Now, on the surface, these names simply mean servant of God and servant of the most merciful, respectively.
I mean, there's got to be a deeper meaning behind that preference, right?
Of course. These names really beautifully encapsulate like a core principle of Islam, submission to God. It really represents that ideal relationship between a human being and the divine.
Right.
So by choosing these names, parents are acknowledging that, their children are ultimately servants of God, that they've been entrusted to their care. It's almost like a way of instilling humility and spiritual awareness from the very, very beginning. So, imagine like the impact of growing up with a name that constantly reminds you of your relationship with the Creator.
Yeah, like a built-in reminder of your purpose and your place in this grand scheme of things.
Exactly.
It's not just labels. These are like powerful expressions of faith
Obviously.
And guiding principles for life.
Now, to further kind of unpack the reasoning behind prohibiting the use of the Prophet's kunya, we can look at Hadiths 5316 to 5325.
Okay.
And these really offer a deeper dive into the Prophet's role as a distributor.
Okay.
They highlight how he was entrusted, with dividing spoils of war, fairly justly, making sure that everyone received their due share.
Right.
And this is a responsibility that was given directly to him by God,
Right.
signifying his very unique position of trust and authority.
Okay, so his Kunya Abu Qasim becomes like this symbol of that divinely ordained role.
Correct.
A reminder that he's not just any father,
Mm-hmm.
but one chosen for a
Right.
specific purpose
Yeah, exactly.
that can't be transferred to anyone else.
It would be like trying to wear the king's crown,
Yeah.
you know? It just doesn't belong to anyone else.
Right, right.
Now, what's interesting is that Hadith 5-26 kind of paints this really fascinating picture of like the social and cultural context of naming back then.
Okay.
And it explains that people used to name their children after prophets and like righteous individuals who came before them.
Oh, wow.
So it kind of highlights this desire to connect with and emulate these exemplars of faith.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It's like carrying a legacy forward,
Yeah.
almost trying to like invoke the qualities of those individuals by
Yeah.
giving those names to their children.
Right.
It shows a reverence for tradition
Yeah.
and like a longing to follow in the footsteps of those that they were close to God.
Absolutely. It's this deep desire for spiritual connection, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a belief in the power of names to kind of shape a person's character and even their destiny.
This is so fascinating. So we've established that, choosing good names is essential in Islam.
Right.
But what about those that we're given names with, like negative connotations?
Yeah.
What guidance do these hadiths offer in those cases?
That's a great question, and that's exactly what we'll explore next. Hadiths 5332 to 5337 provide some really heartwarming examples of the Prophet's sensitivity and wisdom in dealing with these situations.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Yeah.
Let's hear how the Prophet addressed this.
All right. So these hadiths show us that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, actively encouraged changing names that carried negative meanings or could lead to, potential harm or social stigma.
Okay.
He understood that names have a profound impact on people's lives, and that it's crucial to choose names that reflect positive qualities and promote well-being.
So it wasn't just about picking good names from the start, but also like being sensitive to the impact of names that maybe weren't given with that same awareness.
Right.
It sounds like he was really focused on fostering a supportive and positive social environment.
Absolutely. He was a master of understanding human psychology and social dynamics.
Mm.
One of the most touching examples of this sensitivity is found in Hadith 5334, the story of Juwariya.
No.
Her original name was Bara, which means pious.
Yeah, I mean,
Now, it seems like a perfectly lovely name, right?
yeah, nothing wrong with being pious. So why the change?
Well, the Prophet, peace be upon him, recognized that her name could be misconstrued, especially given his position as a leader.
Okay.
He didn't want people to say that he had, emerged from Bara,
Right.
which, depending on the context, could have carried inappropriate implications.
Okay.
So to safeguard her reputation and avoid any potential, gossip or misunderstanding, he changed her name to Juwariya.
So even a name with positive intentions
Right.
could become problematic if
Right.
it opened the door for misinterpretation
Yeah.
or social awkwardness. It shows how careful and thoughtful the Prophet, peace be upon him, was about protecting people's dignity.
Exactly. He was very mindful of social perceptions and potential pitfalls, ensuring that his actions and guidance promoted respect and well-being. And there's another similar story, in Hadiths 5335 to 5337,
Okay.
involving another woman named Bara.
Okay.
The Prophet, peace be upon him, changed her name to Zainab,
That's right.
explaining that it's not for us to declare ourselves pious,
Right.
as God alone knows the true state of our hearts.
Such a powerful reminder. It's not about outwardly labeling ourselves with virtuous titles.
Yeah.
It's about those inner qualities that truly define our character.
Exactly.
Humility, and recognizing that only God can judge our piety.
Exactly. You see this beautiful balance of practicality
Yeah.
and deep spiritual insight.
Yeah.
The Prophet, peace be upon him, understood that names hold immense power, in shaping our self-perception and how others perceive us. He encouraged his community to choose names that were not only meaningful, but also, socially appropriate and conducive to positive interactions.
So it's like a holistic approach to naming,
Right.
considering not just the individual, but the broader social impact as well.
Exactly.
It's fascinating how these details reveal so much about the Prophet's wisdom and compassion.
Yeah.
So we've talked about choosing good names
Wow.
and the sensitivity in changing those with negative connotations. But what about specific names that were discouraged even if they seemed positive on the surface.
Ah, that's where things get even more interesting. So Hadiths 5327 to 5331 bring up a seemingly counterintuitive guideline.
Okay.
They list names that the Prophet, peace be upon him, discouraged for servants.
Okay.
Afla, successful. Rabba, profit. Yasar, wealth. And Nafiz, beneficial.
Okay.
These are all words with positive meanings.
Yeah, I was going to say, why would they be discouraged?
So why would they be discouraged? It does seem a bit puzzling at first, but I think if we delve into the possible reasons, we can see, the Prophet's, peace be upon him, incredible foresight and wisdom.
Okay.
One interpretation is that these names, particularly when given to those in service roles,
Right.
could potentially foster a sense of arrogance or unrealistic expectations.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
Okay.
Imagine a servant named Successful constantly being reminded of that title.
Right.
It could lead to, feelings of superiority or entitlement.
Yeah, I see. It's about promoting humility and balance within the social structure.
Right.
And on the flip side,
Right.
if a servant were named prophet, it could create an undue burden.
Exactly.
A pressure to constantly generate wealth for their master.
Right.
Which isn't a healthy dynamic.
It's about recognizing the inherent equality of all human beings,
Right.
regardless of their social standing, a core value in Islam.
Yeah.
These naming guidelines subtly reinforce that message, encouraging respect and balance in all relationships.
It's amazing how seemingly minor details like choosing names can have such profound social and psychological implications.
Yeah, it's true.
It speaks to the holistic worldview of Islam, where every aspect of life is infused with ethical considerations.
Absolutely. And speaking of social implications, this leads us to another set of hadiths, numbers 5333 and 5339, where a specific title, Malik al-Amlak, meaning King of Kings, is condemned.
Ah, I bet this has to do with the Islamic concept of God's absolute sovereignty.
You're absolutely right. The condemnation of this title underscores a fundamental belief in Islam that there is no king but God.
Right.
To bestow this title upon any human ruler would be considered, blasphemous, as it implies a sharing of God's ultimate authority and power.
It's not just about respecting God's uniqueness. It's about understanding the nature of true power and authority.
Right.
It's a reminder that all earthly power is ultimately derived from and subservient to the divine will.
Exactly. And this principle known as Tawhid, the oneness of God, permeates every aspect of Islamic belief and practice.
Yeah.
It shapes our understanding of the world, our relationship with the Creator, and how we interact with each other.
It's like this guiding principle that reminds us to stay grounded.
Yeah.
Recognizing that true power resides not in worldly titles, but in our connection to the divine.
Now let's shift gears a bit and move on to a beautiful and heartwarming tradition described in Hadiths 53340 to 53449, the practice of Totnik.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of this?
I have. It involves rubbing softened dates on a newborn baby's palate.
Yes.
I know it has like some symbolic meaning, but I'd love to hear more about the significance of it.
It's such a lovely tradition. Totnik really symbolizes sweetness and blessings for the child's life. It's often performed by a respected elder or someone known for their piety, with the hope that the child will inherit those qualities. And the hadiths paint such a heartwarming picture of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, performing Totnik and giving names to newborns.
It's such a personal and tender act
that
speaks volumes about his love and care for children, and the importance placed on welcoming new life into the community.
It's also a reminder, of the importance of community and shared rituals in Islam. Bringing a newborn to the Prophet, peace be upon him, for Totnik was a way for parents to seek his blessings and incorporate their child into the larger Muslim community.
That sense of belonging.
Yeah.
Being held by the Prophet himself as you enter this world.
Exactly.
Such a powerful start to life.
And it's not just a symbolic gesture, is it?
No.
I believe there's a practical element to Totnik as well.
Yeah, there is.
Dates are known for their nutritional value, being a good source of energy and nutrients for a growing baby. And the sweetness might also help soothe a crying baby, offering comfort in those early moments of life.
So it beautifully combines spiritual significance with practical wisdom.
Exactly.
Reflecting a holistic approach to childcare.
Right.
That addresses both the physical and spiritual well-being of the child.
It's truly a remarkable tradition. And this emphasis on caring for children and ensuring their well-being from the very beginning
Yeah.
speaks to the profound compassion of the prophet, peace be upon him,
Right.
and the community's deep commitment to nurturing the next generation. It's like laying a strong foundation for a righteous and fulfilling life.
Inspiring to see how, even in the earliest days of Islam,
Yeah.
such importance was placed on these seemingly small but deeply meaningful acts. Makes you realize every action, every ritual is imbued with a deeper purpose.
Indeed, it's all interconnected, creating this beautiful tapestry that connects faith, tradition, and social responsibility. And it's not just about the past. These traditions offer valuable lessons for us today, reminding us of the importance of community, respect, and a deep understanding of how our actions,
Right.
even something as simple as choosing a name or
Yeah.
performing tafnik,
Yeah.
can have a ripple effect, shaping our lives and the lives of those around us.
This has been such an eye-opening discussion. Really fascinating.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how much we can learn about Islamic values and practices just by exploring these selections from Sahih Muslim.
Absolutely. And we've only just begun to scratch the surface
Right.
of this treasure trove of wisdom.
Well, before we delve further into this fascinating book, let's take a moment to let these insights sink in.
Okay.
When we come back, we'll continue exploring Islamic etiquette,
Okay.
focusing on the importance of addressing others with kindness and seeking permission before entering someone's home. Welcome back to the Echoes of Ihsan podcast.
You know, I'm still kind of processing all those insights we uncovered about Islamic naming conventions and like the deeper meanings behind those simple acts like tafnik.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it, how something like a name or a ritual
Right.
can hold so much weight.
Yeah.
You know, it reflects not just individual identity, but also the values and social dynamics of like a whole culture.
Yeah, exactly. It's like each hadith we've explored from Sahih Muslim, book 25, is like this thread woven into this larger tapestry that reveals this like rich and nuanced understanding of Islamic etiquette and the principles behind it.
Absolutely.
But before we get totally lost in the beauty of that tapestry, let's kind of shift our focus to another set of hadiths that deal with how we address and interact with one another.
Yes, let's delve into that. So hadiths 5350 to 5353
Okay.
really highlight this importance of addressing others with respect and affection.
Okay.
And we see the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, using terms of endearment, you know, calling his young companion Anas, my son,
Right.
and kind of extending that same warmth.
To others. So it's not just about polite greetings. It's about cultivating that genuine sense of care and connection.
It's like creating this atmosphere of love and respect where people feel like valued and seen, you know, not just as individuals, but as part of a larger community.
Absolutely. These small gestures go a long way in fostering strong bonds
Right.
and strengthening the social fabric. You know, it's about recognizing the inherent dignity and worth of every single person, regardless of their age or social standing.
You know, it's so refreshing to hear this emphasis on kindness and respect, especially in a world that often feels so rushed and like transactional. You know, it's a reminder that even in like our everyday interactions, we really have the power to create like a more compassionate and humane world.
I couldn't agree more. And this principle extends beyond our immediate circles as well, right? Because Islamic teachings encourage us to treat all people with kindness and respect, regardless of their faith or background.
Yeah, it's this universal message of humanity, reminding us of our shared connection and our responsibility to care for one another.
Exactly.
Now, speaking of respect, the next set of hadiths we'll explore kind of takes us into the realm of like personal space and boundaries.
Yes. So hadiths 5354 to 5362 provide very specific guidelines for seeking permission before entering someone's home.
Right.
A practice that might seem a little bit overly formal to us today,
Right.
but holds deep significance in Islamic tradition.
I'm curious to hear more about that. Like, why is this act of seeking permission considered so important? What's the deeper message behind it?
I think these hadiths highlight the Islamic emphasis on privacy
Okay.
and the sanctity of one's home.
Hmm.
In Islam, the home is considered a sanctuary, a place of peace and refuge.
Mm-hmm.
So entering without permission is actually seen as a violation of that
Okay.
sacred space
Okay.
and a disrespect of the individual's autonomy.
Yeah, I can see how that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's about respecting boundaries and
Mhm.
recognizing that everyone has that right to privacy and control over their own space.
Yeah.
And, the hadiths illustrate this principle so beautifully through the story of Abu Musa's encounter with Umar,
Ah, yes.
the second caliph of Islam.
That's a great example.
Yeah.
So Abu Musa, he went to visit Umar, but actually turned back after calling out 3 times
Okay.
and receiving no response.
Okay.
When questioned about this by Umar,
Mm-hmm.
Abu Musa explained that he was following the Prophet's, peace be upon him, instruction to
Right.
seek permission 3 times and then leave
Yeah.
if there's no answer.
Wow. It's fascinating how even in this seemingly minor interaction,
Right.
there's such an emphasis on following the prophet's teachings and
Oh.
respecting social boundaries. It's like every action, no matter how small, is imbued with a deeper meaning and purpose.
It really speaks to the importance of being mindful and deliberate
Yeah.
in our interactions.
Yeah.
And notice how Umar, a leader known for his justice and piety,
Mhm.
was so eager to learn
Right.
from this incident.
Right.
Right. It shows that even those in authority
Yeah.
are not exempt from following proper etiquette.
It's a reminder that continuous learning and self-reflection
Yeah.
are essential for all of us,
Hmm.
regardless of our position or knowledge.
Exactly.
So to kind of sum it up, seeking permission before entering someone's home, it isn't just like a formality. It's an act of respect
Mhm.
for their privacy
Right.
and their right to choose,
Yeah.
who enters their space.
Precisely. It's about fostering this culture of respect and understanding,
Yeah.
recognizing that our actions can have a profound impact on others,
Right.
even in seeming insignificant ways.
Now, the next set of hadiths, 5363 to 5365, kind of touches on another interesting aspect of social etiquette, discouraging vague responses.
Right.
When someone asks, who is it? When seeking permission to enter.
Right. So instead of saying, it is I, which doesn't really provide any useful information, these hadiths encourage clear and honest communication.
Yeah.
So when someone asks for your identity,
Mhm.
the proper response is to identify yourself clearly so they can then make an informed decision
Right.
about whether or not to grant you entry.
It's not just about, seeking permission,
Yeah.
but also about being transparent and straightforward in
It's-
our communication.
It's about building trust and fostering open communication,
Mhm.
which are essential for healthy relationships and a harmonious society.
It's about creating an environment
Yeah.
where people feel comfortable and safe,
Right.
knowing that, they can rely on each other for clear and truthful interactions.
Yeah.
Now, the final set of hadiths we'll explore today takes us into kind of a more sensitive area,
Okay.
the prohibition against peeping into others' homes,
Yeah.
as outlined in hadiths 5366 to 5371.
Yeah, these hadiths use very strong language to condemn this act, emphasizing the absolute sanctity of private spaces in Islam.
Right.
Peeping is considered a very serious violation of privacy and a grave offense.
Right. There's this reminder that privacy is a fundamental right,
Yeah.
and violating that right is not only disrespectful, but also harmful,
Right.
potentially causing distress and anxiety to those being observed without their consent.
It's interesting how these teachings kind of connect back to the earlier discussions about, seeking permission and respecting boundaries.
Absolutely.
It's all part of this larger framework of ethical conduct that prioritizes the well-being and autonomy of individuals.
It's about creating this culture of trust and security where people feel safe and protected in their homes
Right.
and their personal spaces.
Wow, we covered so much ground today, from the significance of choosing good names to the importance of respecting privacy
Yeah.
and personal boundaries.
It's clear that these teachings from Sahih Muslim offer just a wealth of wisdom that can guide us towards a more ethical and compassionate way of living.
It's really been a fascinating journey through the world of Islamic etiquette.
Mm-hmm.
And while these teachings are, rooted in centuries-old traditions, the underlying principles of respect and kindness and mindful interaction are really timeless and universal.
So what?
Yeah.
What does all of this mean for us in our modern world?
That's a great question. I think these ancient principles provide a blueprint
Yeah.
almost, for building stronger relationships, for fostering a greater sense of community, and
Right.
for cultivating inner peace in a world that often feels increasingly, disconnected and chaotic.
Yeah.
They remind us that even in our very fast-paced, technologically driven lives,
Right.
we can choose to act with intention, to prioritize respect and kindness,
Mhm.
and to create a more humane and compassionate world, one interaction at a time.
It's about remembering that, like every word, every
Yeah.
gesture, every action has the potential to ripple outwards, impacting not only ourselves, but also the lives of those around us.
Exactly. It's a powerful reminder of our interconnectedness
Yeah.
and the profound impact of
Yeah.
our choices, big and small.
And on that note, I want to leave our listeners with something to ponder. How do we apply these, ancient principles of etiquette and respect in our digital interactions? How do we navigate the complexities of online communication
Mm-hmm.
while upholding Islamic values of privacy, honesty, and kindness?
That is a fantastic question. It's a challenge for all of us to navigate this digital landscape with awareness and intention,
Hmm.
remembering that those same principles of respect and consideration apply even when we're interacting through screens.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive
Yeah.
into Islamic naming conventions and etiquette.
Mm-hmm.
We hope you've gained some valuable insights and a renewed appreciation for the wisdom of these Islamic traditions.
Until next time,
Mm.
may you find peace and blessings in your interactions with others.